Okay, thanks everyone for coming this evening. So it is 7 o'clock. We're going to call the meeting to order. I would ask at this time if there are any additions to the agenda. I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Moved.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded. The agenda is approved. We have two gallery presentations here this evening. The first presentation I have entitled Sarek Students. So who do we have presenting on behalf of Sarek Students?
Represent them, speak on their behalf.
Oh, fantastic. Please come up to the podium and introduce yourself. And thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to see me. I have to apologize for not getting this information to you sooner. It was prepared. The students wrote a lovely letter, but I had the wrong email address and it kept bouncing back. So I'm here to represent Sarek's 11.3 Canadian history class. And we're on here this evening to present what we hope to become an annual piece of research that our whole town and community can enjoy. So just a little background. Thank you, that's perfect slide. For your information, and this is why I wish my students were here this evening to see governance in action. But Teaching Canadian History 11, in case you didn't know, it's divided into these 5 continuing or persistent themes in our history, and how we came to be where we are today. And those themes include, as you can see, globalization, development, sovereignty, governance, and justice. And then there is a final unit, which actually goes all year long, which is their independent study. So my challenge as their teacher is to make history really exciting, sort of like Shakespeare, and somewhat relevant. So that's not easy when there's so many distractions. And I don't know, I racked my brain. So if you would you mind going to the next slide?
If you want to do it yourself,
oh,
you just want to click that button.
Perfect. How fun. Okay.
She has the power.
Oh, I'm used to have, but this is my little trick. I take my glasses off so I can't see that, but now I can see your face. That's the teacher would never turn their back, ever. Okay, so this all started actually when I was home. I come from away. I'm still introduced as this is Bobby's wife. She's just over from New Brunswick. So I was at home with my parents, and like we do here in town, we gather at the Cenotaph in Rothesay. And standing there with everyone in the community, I was struck not just by the wreaths and the number of people that come out to that ceremony, but to the banners that hung around the perimeter of, this is Rothesay Commons, which had like the picture of that trend, a little history, perhaps the years they fought, under what flag, etc. But it was their faces that struck me, because yes, the names are read from the roll, but there's no visual. And what I know about my students, they need a visual. They need to make that connection. So I thought, gee, that's a cool idea. Thinking I'd struck something new and exciting until I came home and discovered that this memorial banner program is nationwide. I did some research. Yarmouth does this, Truro does this, most recently North Sydney has engaged in this initiative. So I contacted this organization to find out how we, my students, could go about beginning this process. So they suggested that the first step is to seek permission. So the first permission I had to get was from my administrator, Mr. Rob Allen, who gave it quite quickly. And then the second was to do a presentation to our local branch 43 of the Royal Canadian Legion, which we did just prior to the break. For the same reason my students are not here this evening, if you recall, just before the break, we had some snow days, so permission slips couldn't get out. And without a permission slip signed in triplicate, nobody leaves the building to go anywhere, even if it's in the evening, and even if it's to town council, which is why they're not here tonight. Although I think they were going to have to be off the hook. In any case, so what we're here to ask council is for your consideration and approval, hopefully, to give us permission to move forward with the understanding that these banners, if created, would hang from the lampposts about town. We are a small class. I should tell you there's only, don't please tell anyone this, there's only 9 in the class. So this is pretty ambitious. The Legion was wonderful. They gave 1,000% support behind this, even going so far as to offer covering the expenses, which I'll get to in step 3. Just their blessing for my students to conduct their research. So we've already sort of begun. Even if we don't get the banners made, I still think the research is very important. So we went over to the cenotaph, each student. I'm doing one myself so that I can model for the students what research looks like step by step. And we all end up with a somewhat similar project. And I will oversee this from beginning to end. The banner themselves, as you can see, we're fortunate enough just to have a photograph from one of the Legion members mentioned at that meeting that I think it's in Arichat, where this organization will take a photo and can superimpose it on the body of a gentleman or a lady wearing the uniform that they would have worn. So it's not their body, but it's their face, which I thought was remarkable. So the students have already started their research, looking into, of course, who these individuals are, where and when they served. And this has been the most engaging, exciting activity I've seen in a long time. So just through digital research, we found George Embry. He's the individual that one of the students had chosen, served in World War I. Those are his enlistment papers. The students were amazed on the second page of that first document. First off, a primary document. I mean, this is an official piece of registration. On the second page, it suggests that this individual had a burn mark on their left leg, and they were just struck with what a ridiculous thing to have to know about an individual. They also thought it was very interesting when they noted their occupation or whether they were married or not married, and just the language that was used. From that, we were able to go to the archives. This document in the middle, if any of you have been to the parliamentary buildings, in the Peace Tower, there is the Chapel of Remembrance. And every day, this book is turned, every single day, so that a new list of individuals who served Canada in any of the global conflicts is turned. And he was in that book that I think on the third, fourth page. Then the students went to take a look at, okay, well, where did he serve? And sadly, the way that they were able to determine that was by locating his grave first. So then they were able to find the graveyard in Belgium where he is buried. His remains were identified. And then they could backtrack and they could take a look at the actual battle itself. And I believe with this individual, he fought in the Battle of Ypres outside a town called Kreml in Belgium. And then the students get to do even further research to see what the town was like before and after World War I, making it ever so real for those students. So I think that that's kind of a worthy history project which will meet that goal. But the biggest goal for them is, of course, they would love to see our town honor these individuals through this program. So the cost of the program depends on the banner. I think they each come in at $150, although there could be other costs involved with, if we need to get a special permit from town council or if we need other materials. What we're hoping for is not financial backing from town council necessarily, but A, your permission to move forward, and B, your assistance in perhaps hoisting these banners at the beginning of November and taking them down after Remembrance Day. And what we would love to see to begin would be, because we're only starting with 10, we would have them from the end of Reeve Street down to Sarek. So every day, those students coming in on the bus would see these individuals who made the ultimate sacrifice for their country. And that's the presentation for the students. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Okay, so thank you very much for your presentation, and we will certainly open the floor for any questions or comments. Maybe we'll start with Councillor McIver.
Yes, Your Worship, through you, thank you for the presentation. I think it's a wonderful idea. And I don't have any questions, but fully support it.
Thank you so much.
Councillor.
Through you, Your Worship. I'll echo Councillor McIver's comments. It's a fantastic project. The students are learning the real history, which seems to be a little bit different from when I was in high school. So I'm really happy with this initiative, and I would support it as well.
Thank you. Councilor McCord?
Yes, Your Worship, Colleen, it's an excellent project. I was curious, so the timeline is from the 1st of November till the end of the month, is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. We thought actually, because the poppy is taken off at noon
Right.
on November 11th, that they would perhaps symbolically come down at the same time, perhaps after the ceremony at the cenotaph. I have to do a little bit more investigation to see what other communities do.
Right.
But that would be very open to discussion.
Sure. And the Legion is looking after the financing?
They've offered to write to see if they can get access to the Poppy Fund. And one of the members, Mr. Jim Ralph, who's the music teacher at Sarek, has very graciously offered to perform at a benefit dance or something along those lines. We haven't finalized that. I think I may have jumped a little back. If I come back to the pricing and costs, the other thing that we would do, the next step after this, is my students are in the process of writing a press release to put into the Reporter, perhaps have a segment on 115 The Hawk or the Orin or local radio, local media, because a lot of communities, family members often come forward and say, we would like to have one made in honor of our loved ones. So we can certainly, the sky's the limit. You can have as many as you like.
Yeah.
But with 9 students, we can't do that amount of research. However, moving forward, if we start small, I've talked with my colleagues who also teach this course. They're willing to kind of have this become the project, if you will, moving forward.
It's fantastic, and it's on behalf of myself, but I'll be very receptive and supportive of any asks that you would have coming forward around this project.
Thank you so much.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes, okay, thank you, Your Worship, through you. Thanks, Colleen, for this is getting to me a little. We have 5 streets in Hawkesbury now named after veterans that were killed in World War II. And a number of years back, my father, when he was with the First Battle Service Force, and they went back to Italy, and they and when you put the grave up there, he went over overseas. He went over with the young fellow, and he was standing there one day at the grave, and he looked down, and he was at the young fellow's grave, and it was a McDonald boy, and McDonald Street is named after him here. So I would definitely support that, and the 5 streets, obviously, that are named in town from these young men that went overseas could probably or possibly or probably should be one of the first crew that are acknowledged. And I definitely echo Councilor McCrory, so I will support it 100%. Thank you.
And just to further to that, Councillor is one of the Legion members actually suggested that as well, because one of the struggles my students have was, well, who do you pick? And then that struck us, like, what a bizarre thing to even say, like, who do you pick if there's that many? But we did talk about, and we talked about, in fact, another student brought it up, that many of the streets are named for veterans or those that served overseas. So, but then it did become a struggle because then other students were, I'd like to research my family member who's not one of those individuals. But I 100% agree with the symbolism of that as well. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So just on behalf of council, I think you have our unanimous support, so you can check off your 3rd box.
Yes, thank you.
We will, I guess if you need confirmation, like a letter from the town.
That would be great.
We can certainly provide one. If you want to, I know we'll get you the correct email so it doesn't bounce anywhere, but
Totally on me.
if you send us the particulars in terms of what verbiage you would need us to confirm in letter form, then we're happy to draft that and send it off to you so you can continue with this excellent project. I commend you as well as all of your other teaching staff. this is a phenomenal project. And, certainly in all of the Remembrance Day ceremonies I've participated in, it's, how do you continue to engage the youth? Because certainly it's so important that we remember, lest history repeat itself. So
Exactly.
thank you so much for
Awesome.
all
Thank
that you
you.
do.
Oh,
And
thank you.
yeah, as a teacher as well as a history and engaging our kids. So thank you.
So I hope my final pitch, sales pitch, helping in the marking, that'd be nice. I could give you each a project that's more.
There you go, Kiwi. There's an extra project for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Tom.
Colleen. Okay, so we do have a second gallery presentation here this evening. And do we have it? Oh, Gina, you are Gina. You're hiding behind the podium. I only saw your bun.
Cape Breton South Recruit.
Yeah, so we have Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health. So we have Gina McDonald with us here this evening. Welcome, Gina.
Hello.
You now have the power of the clicker. Okay, thank you, Gina. Over to you.
Or is it a
Let me click on
PDF?
it first here.
That's not gonna work for PDF. So Terry, maybe we'll scroll through for you. Just maybe the next slide.
Oh,
Next
perfect,
one?
yeah. All right, so everyone, I think, knows who I am, but for the sake of introductions, I'm Gina McDonald, and I am the Program Director for Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health. And I'm not a good speaker like Colleen, so I probably won't turn around to address the crowd, but hello. I am here to give you a little bit of a rundown about what we have been doing for the past year and what our next year looks like as one of our biggest funders. So Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health has several important goals that we concentrate on. Promoting Cape Breton South to showcase our unique attributes, engaging with the public to build networks and generate recruitment leads, recruit qualified healthcare professionals to our region, and retain a robust network of healthcare professionals who make Cape Breton South their home. As I'm sure all of you know, Cape Breton South isn't a real geographic area, but it is because of shared resources. Cape Breton South is Richmond County and the town of Port Hawkesbury together. So that is what we have been trying to do over the course of the last about 2.5 years since Cape Breton South has been in existence. I joined in November of 2021 and have had a very busy 18 months or so since I did start. Since the last time that I spoke to council, I've put together some reference documents to give you an idea of what that 1.5 years has looked like. I'm not going to go through all of them because they are pretty extensive, but I have included in the package of information our logic model, which gives a very detailed overview of what our intentions are and what progress we've made in terms of our ultimate goals and our short and long-term goals. As well, I've included a copy of our schedule over the next year for all of 2023. That schedule is it's a projected schedule that hasn't been finalized yet because the funding is very new, and so we're still trying to finalize with the provincial government exactly what 2023 is going to look like. But that gives you a bit of an indication of what we're going to be looking at for the next year. So in terms of a review of our year, we did have very many successful events. The very first one that I was involved with organizing was the Community of Care Awards Gala, which took place in April of last year. We awarded, I believe it was 11 award recipients in various professions within the healthcare field, with awards ranging from Michael Hatt won an award for an innovative business. We honored LPNs who went above and beyond in long-term care. We had a great many awards, and people were able to take their families and accept the awards in front of their families. It was very well received, and we're actually having our second annual awards ceremony on April the 13th here at the Civic Center. So we're looking forward to that. And these are just some more pictures of our award ceremony. So appreciation events for all different professions is something that we do throughout the year. There's a schedule of various appreciation days that are recognized either nationally or provincially for each profession. Doctors Day, we have Nurses Week, we have Medical Lab Technicians Week, and we show appreciation to those various professions within their workplaces. That can take the form of either a delivery of food. We've had some of the elementary school students from tech make some cards for the nurses, which was a very well received initiative. So things like that, just to show the different healthcare professionals within this area that they are appreciated by the people that they serve. The new physicians are a big gain for this area. We had 2 new physicians come, one, Dr. Attenborough for the Ayrshire Clinic. He started in September of last year, and Dr. Shrestha, who just started at the Port Hawkesbury Clinic within the past couple of weeks. Dr. Shrestha is doing very well. I just saw him today, and he's very happy to be here. His wife and his 2 daughters will be joining him once school is over in June, and we are really hoping that he will be a permanent fixture here in Port Hawkesbury.
Fantastic.
So the Dalhousie Family Medicine Retreat and Job Fair is something that I attended in September in St. John, New Brunswick. It was extremely beneficial in several different senses, but mostly with the networking that I was able to do there. There were about 150 Dalhousie Family Medical students, about 3/4 of which have given me their contact information because they were interested in Cape Breton. So I did make contact with a number of those medical residents. Some of them were joining us at our event last fall, and 3 of them are actually coming to spend a weekend in this area within the next year with their families. So it's promising leads that come from those because of the conversations that you're able to have one-on-one with the medical residents. So probably our biggest event of the past year was the Business of Medicine Retreat, which took place in September of last year. We held it at the Norlakes Inn in St. Peters, and we took 4 different medical residents all around Cape Breton South. We did a tour of the trails with Larry McKeegan. We took them to the Fleur de Lis for lunch. We took them to the Civic Center to look around. We took them on a little bus tour of the town of Port Hawkesbury, and then we went to Lordways, to the clinic there where Doctors Nova Scotia held the Business of Medicine course, which was to kind of give them an idea of what it was like to run a medical practice and what the different considerations were as far as onboarding patients and different compensation models and things like that. So they found it of a lot of value, but the biggest value for us was that we used it as a recruitment event, very much so, because a lot of these residents remarked that they had no idea that we were even here. They had driven by so many times and had never really been made aware that there was so much in this area. So they were all very thankful and very happy to have been invited. And of the 4 residents that were there, Dr. Shrestha is practicing here now, and the 3 other residents have all taken meetings here in terms of expressing serious interest in practicing either in Port Hawkesbury, Lordways, or in Ayrshire. And the spouse of one of the other residents has expressed interest in opening a dental practice in Port Hawkesbury. Jason was at that meeting, and they are very interested in exploring what it's going to be like. So I think that was a really worthwhile recruitment activity, considering that we did get the potential of 4, maybe even 5, new prospects for this area out of that one event. So, as well as having the Business of Medicine course, I think another important component to that weekend was the physician's welcome reception that took place the Friday night of the retreat. It was, to my knowledge, the first time that all of the physicians in this area were able to get together in a social atmosphere outside of there being any patient interaction, because it was a private ceremony, and they were able to socialize, get to know the medical residents who were there, to pass along advice to them, and to really make the most of all of the influence that they would have over the candidates that were there. So their presence was very much appreciated by the medical residents in attendance, and it is definitely my intention to have another one of these this year when we have the Business of Medicine course again. And actually, I was speaking to Dr. Kluter and Dr. Collins today, and they asked if we were having another one of these courses. So anything that Dr. Collins and Dr. Pluto want to come to, I think is a success.
With a redo.
Gotta get them to.
So these are just a few more pictures from some of the tours that we did. They really, I can't even tell you how impressed they were with the whole area. They have passed along their encouragement to their fellow residents, and I have a waiting list of people who want to attend this year. So we were really very happy with the success of the whole event. So another very valuable activity was the Navigators Network retreat that I attended. There are about 9 of me across the province in various capacities and that work for various organizations. We had a lot of very, very valuable meetings with the head of the Office of Healthcare Professional Recruitment. We met with the Minister of Housing. We met with the Director of the Practice Ready Assessment Program. We met with some very high-level leadership teams from Nova Scotia Health in an effort to understand what drives candidates to certain areas and what makes certain areas eligible for certain programs. So that was extremely valuable information, and it allowed all of those different organizations to get a better picture of who was working for them within their community, so that they were then able to know that we were resources that they could use going forward. So these are just assorted activities. So my days are very busy, and they are filled with different activities that are going to always vary from day to day. I never know exactly what's going to be needed of me until it's needed. So some days that might be looking for an apartment for a nurse that's coming to the Straight Richmond, and some days it might be bringing a card to somebody who is accepted into the nurse practitioner's program, and some days that might be, you know, making up a prospectus to pass out at a job fair. So these are just kind of some examples of some of the things that I fill my time with. And I can assure you that my days are very full, and that there is certainly no lack of work being done on behalf of the people who live in Cape Breton South by our organization. So that's just a list, and this is all here for you to refer to. Everything is in painful detail within the logic model if you're interested in looking. Basically, to go a little bit off script, it's easy to look at a list of things that we've done, but I think that the greatest value in a position like this is the networking that is done on behalf of this area behind the scenes. So I know that everybody is probably under the impression, as I was, that Nova Scotia Health is responsible for going to recruitment fairs all over the world and, you know, bringing people to this area, and that when I started this job, I was kind of under the impression that I was going to be taking those candidates that Nova Scotia Health brought here and helping them find housing and helping them to become part of the community, and that has not been my experience whatsoever. This isn't to say that Nova Scotia Health isn't doing any recruiting. I'm sure that they are, but I can tell you that within the past year, and since I have been, since the last time I presented to this group, I have spoken to and had conversations with 25 different candidates with respect to potentially moving to this area. Of those 25 candidates, 16 of them were sourced by me directly. So that is either meeting them at recruitment fairs, having them introduced to me by other recruits, direct contact made by these people to me either through the website or through a telephone call. A few of them were made through third-party introductions, so somebody in the community saying, I know somebody who's a doctor, and introducing them to me that way. There have been several practice-ready assessment candidates who have come to us, so a total of 5 actually. And Rose from the Straight Richmond, before she left her position, she introduced 3 people to me. The total number of healthcare professionals who were brought to me by Nova Scotia Health is 2. And of those 2, one of them was before I even started, and that person has never been contacted again until very recently, when I arranged for him to come to Port Hawkesbury for a visit in November, and the other person decided to go elsewhere. So there isn't a lot of actual recruitment activity that goes on here outside of community attraction and retention and recruitment. Although Nova Scotia Health does have access to pools of candidates, and I'm hopeful that that might yield a little bit more fruit in the future. Over the past year, 18 months, it has not been my experience that has really done this area very many favors in terms of the people who actually practice here. The people who we have that are new that are practicing here have been sourced on a community level. So I think that that's probably the greatest value of a position like this, is because we're able to have the conversations that are necessary to have people want to move here, to have people want to stay here, and to have people feel like they're welcome in the community outside of just their employer telling them so. So that being said, there are several more slides, but the bottom line is this. We just got $74,000 from the provincial government, from the Office of Healthcare Professional Recruitment, based on an application that was submitted by our organization to the Office of Healthcare Professional Recruitment for project funding. This funding is very project specific in that we are not able to use the money that is made for one project for another project, and we're not able to use the money for projects to go to anything else. So we have to adhere pretty closely to the budget that we submitted to them in December. And there were a great many things that were not included in the eligibility of this funding. That is anything outside of the province of Nova Scotia was not covered. Any operational expenses, any recruitment fairs and career fairs and things like that were also not eligible for funding. Any travel expenses, any housing support and things like that. So on one of the next slides, there is somewhat of a list of things that were not eligible. These are the different large projects that we have planned for 2023, all of which are included in the schedule, and that I can certainly expand on if anybody has any questions. But the Business of Medicine Retreat, the Community of Care Awards Gala, we have just started a campaign on 1015 The Hoff to show appreciation to various healthcare professionals. That's also going to be used to promote our various events and to encourage people to bring us healthcare leads if they happen to know anybody who is outside of the area who might be interested in one of the available positions here. And then we also have a professional promotional video that we're going to be having produced probably sometime in the summer. That's going to be specifically a recruitment video with testimonials and different information that's specific to healthcare recruitment that we and Nova Scotia Health can use at various recruitment fairs around the country, because traveling is kind of, it's not cost efficient. So we'd rather send a video than send me. So in addition, there's lots of other smaller project funding initiatives that we have planned for 2023, and the Office of Healthcare Professional Recruitment Funding is covering all of these. So this is our ultimate goal, that Cape Breton South community members can access the healthcare services they need, and that is going to take many different shapes. But our main goal is to keep the people here who are here, and to make it very appealing to the people who aren't here so that they come. And we're working extremely hard to do that in a lot of different veins. So securing funding for 2023 for the operational costs and recruitment and retention initiatives not eligible for provincial funding is the next step. These are some of the things that the funding will pay for. In addition to my salary and other administrative costs, we have incentives for local housing and other housing initiatives. Anything that comes up between now and the end of 2023 that isn't in the budget, we don't have funding for. So if a doctor should happen to express interest in coming with his whole family and says, I want to spend the weekend in Cape Breton South, if we can't use funding from the provincial government for that project. So this is what we're trying to kind of get a little bit of padding to be able to do. And then all costs related to out of province or virtual career fairs and conferences. We don't spend a lot of time focusing on virtual conferences and fairs. But it's something that Nova Scotia Health has identified as potentially very rewarding, so it's something that we'd like to be able to have the option to do if we can. So these are the funding requirements that are over and above the provincial funding. These are projected and these are optimistic, but this is what we are hoping that we're able to get from our outside funders in addition to the money from the provincial government. So 61,000 for operational costs. Conferences is 13,000, locum and housing support. We're hoping that we'll have 6 locums that we support at $500 a piece. And then unscheduled recruitment and retention activities, $1,000 is basically a padding for those things that we don't know that we're going to need until we need them. So our funding request for 2023 is the same as it was for 2022. $30,000 is what we are asking from the town of Port Hawkesbury and from the municipality of the county of Richmond. We are very hopeful that both councils are able to see the value in the work that is being done and how hard I am working to try and get as many people here as we can. I can promise you that that's what I do every single day. So if there are any questions from the panel, I will be happy to take them.
Thank you very much, Gina, for your presentation. So we'll open up the floor for questions or comments. So we'll start with Deputy Mayor McDougall.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, thank you, Jana, for the presentation, and it's very thorough, like everything you do. Just a question on the finances, I guess. Is that your budget for the year, around 153,000
Yeah, for this year.
for this year?
It probably wouldn't have been had we didn't have the provincial funding, but when it came to that funding, our maximum was $75,000 that we were able to request from the province. So I got together with Sherry and some of the members of the executive of Cape Breton South to determine exactly what the priorities were, and to basically, we didn't want to leave a single dollar on the table. So that became the budget after we were granted that amount from the province.
Okay, so your budget that reflected on what they gave you.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, no. That's it for me. Thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor McCrory.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Gina, just a fantastic presentation and a lot of information, a lot of accomplishments. It's amazing what's been done in really a relatively very short period of time. We know how busy you are. You have a good committee that's supportive as well, which has a lot of value in terms of their backgrounds and whatnot. But day to day, the stuff that you're doing is unreal, and you're getting results. You're getting significant results, and you, Gina, really are to be commended, really, for all that you're doing.
Thanks.
Very much appreciated. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to Councillor Point.
Through your worship, thank you. Thanks, Gina, for your presentation. You and I speak frequently, so I know what you do. And I know that you don't have much free time. And like Councillor McCrory said, the results that we've shown in a short period of time are remarkable. The event you held in St. Peter's was second to none. It was a great conversation, and like you said, just out of that one meeting, you potentially have a dentist coming here and a doctor. And I support all your work you do, so thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor McIver.
Yes, through you, Your Worship. Thank you, Gina, for the presentation. Your presentation was excellent, and through your presentation, I know you spend a lot of time at work. So you put a lot into it, and I can see from the very first meetings that I guess we had here, Brenda and I, Trevor going to, I guess, Halifax very quickly, Paula getting everything ready to go. The committee really took shape from the first meetings, talking with the administrator at Straight Richmond, and I commend you on the work that you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Just to build on what Councillor McIver is referring to, it's been just from the inception of this town council, from the time, 3.5, 4 years ago, just having those initial conversations with some staff at Straight Richmond to now having Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health is just such an important, I guess a celebration of community collaboration between, both municipalities, but also the community and different community groups. It's a, really diverse set of people around the table that's, working with you and helping to shape your, certainly the work plan and your lovely calendar of events. So, I think council's pretty impressed with the results that have been demonstrated since this organization got off the ground. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say that we're excited to see what's ahead in 2023. We had our second budget meeting today, but certainly we will have more budget discussions, and as soon as we're able to determine our operational budget, once that's completed, we can definitely let you know in terms of your ask. I think so far we have all kinds of support for continued collaboration with Cape Breton.
And I figure I'll end on a high note.
Perfect.
To give a
Please
little
do.
spoiler alert.
Oh, spoiler.
2 new doctors in September. We just found out the other day. So that's a little bit of good news now.
Well, that's a little bit of a cherry on the sundae, Gina.
Right? 2 brand new
Thank you.
doctors. A little bit of construction at the collaborative here in Port Hawkesbury.
Isn't that wonderful?
And we're just steamrolling.
So there, sorry, your worship.
Yeah.
So that's a total, I think, of 4 physicians now that,
Yeah, that'll be 4.
right?
Yeah.
2 years.
Yes.
Don't jinx me, Blaine. That's not it. We're not done. But yeah, it'll be 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Gina.
Take care. Okay, so that concludes our gallery presentations this evening. Now we'll move on to council reports on assigned committees. Thank you to Melissa. She circulated my committee of the whole report for the benefit of council. As per always, if you have any questions or need any more information, my door is always open. Just let me know. So we'll start with Deputy Mayor McDougall. You go ahead and start with your committee reports if you like.
Okay, Your Worship, thank you. It's been, actually, this has been one of the busiest months for meetings since COVID started, for sure. We had a few SAT meetings, Straight Area Transit. We had our initial and a follow-up Festival of the Straight Committee meetings. We had our first Port Hawkesbury Development Committee meeting. We had 2 or 3 Wall of Fame committee meetings. And we had a couple of waterfront committee meetings since our last report. So that's my report, Your Worship.
Thank you. So we'll move on to Councilor McIver.
Pretty much what the deputy mayor said.
Ditto that.
Ditto that.
Sounds good. Is there any other meetings that?
No, we had I just had one coming up on the 30th would be Eastern District Planning, but
Yeah, so we'll save that for
we'll
the
save
next
that
committee.
for the next.
Right, little adventure for next month.
Yeah.
Okay, so Councilor Coyne.
February 22nd, we had met with New Dawn. The 23rd of February, Planning Advisory. And I also attended the Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health. And also a meeting with Richmond County, Mulgrave, and Inverness County, a shared bylaw officer. And that's what I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilor McCory.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, we've had, let's see, a number of weeks. We've had 3 Straight Area Transit meetings. Really pleased to be able to say that Straight Area Transit has hired just very recently 2 new drivers, which has been something that we've been working at for some time. And so we're very pleased about that. And so that is a real positive light. We've had Eastern County Regional Library meeting, and I attended the first Festival of the Strait meeting and Planning Advisory Committee meeting as well. Court Hawkesbury Development.
Perfect, thank you so much. So any other reports, or we're good to move on to CAO reports? Over to you, Terry.
Thank you, Your Worship. We spent a significant amount of time on finance through the budget process, so we're going to move directly to engineering and public works.
Yeah. Aaron, you just sit there, quiet.
Thank you.
We
She looks hurt.
had enough today.
She looks so hurt. She's
enough
actually
finances.
smiling. She's hiding her smile. Sorry, Jason, go ahead.
It's all good, thank you. Through you, Your Worship. In your council package, there's a late engineering and public works report submitted, so actually not with your council package. Shortly after, hopefully.
Sent on Monday.
Yes, the traffic sign report was included. Just wanted to advise folks, we moved that sign this week, so it's been, for the last several months, it's been on Bramble Street at the Sunset Park area. So we recently moved that to Macquarie Drive Extension, adjacent to the community park. So just a couple of highlights with that. It's a 30-kilometer-an-hour posted speed limit zone. Looking at roughly 24 hours of data this afternoon, it's really a testament to how our traffic calming features work in that area. So not seeing exceeds many traffic exceedances past 30 kilometers an hour at all in 24 hours. Relatively small sample size, but that's related to the Sunset Park area.
Perfect, that's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting to have a look at that data after a month or so. On our ICIP projects, just wanted to let everybody know that we continue to work with our design consultant and stakeholders to move forward engineering and tendering for our AT projects. So recently we had kind of an informal conversation with the local area manager for Nova Scotia Public Works just to briefly talk through some of the issues that we're hoping to dive into a little more depth later this spring. And one of those items that we spoke about earlier this afternoon was kind of coordinating more of a formal meeting to look at longer term design options that Nova Scotia Public Works have for around some key assets that the town owns. We've recently reached out to Killam Properties related to the Eastern Town Connection AT project. So still trying to coordinate that meeting with upper management for Killam to work through some of the property matters and maintenance and agreement type arrangements for that connection. But we heard back from them, very hopeful that the decision makers with Killam that are on vacation this week will be back in the office next week, and we can have that conversation. And it's nice to know that Ocean Paving's subcontractor Link Electric was in town this week to start changing up a lot of the light fixtures on Water Street, which is a piece to that project that we weren't able to look after in the fall. So that should come together relatively soon. Can't wait to see all those lights up lit at night. It's going to look really great. On our water systems upgrades, we recently issued a tender for the replacement of the Pitt Street water tank, and with that project. The work involves the demolition of the existing welded steel tank and the construction of a new glass-fused bolted steel tank and foundation. So the deadline for that tender is March 30th, which is coming quickly. The In addition to that, another component of our water systems upgrades in late February, we hosted a kickoff meeting with Verhagen Demolition for the demolition of the old Tamarack tank. So that process is coming along really well. We've received submittals that are required under contract from Verhagen Demolition. We're waiting for them to make some revisions to some of the plans that they provide. And we're told that they're hoping to undertake that project in mid to late April, waiting a little bit for more favorable, consistent weather. So that's going to be a nice piece of work. And lastly, just wanted to touch base on our reporting that typically happens this time of year to Nova Scotia Environment. So we are planning to submit final draft of our water system assessment report late this week or early next week to Nova Scotia Environment. This is a very involved report that needs to be done by a consultant that looks at pretty much every aspect of our treatment and distribution system. It's a requirement of our operating approval and needs to be done every 10 years. So this should be submitted very soon. And we will be submitting our annual report for the water utility to Nova Scotia Environment by the end of the month, which is, and our operations staff at that work well underway. So a brief summary of some of the work that we've undertaken in the last month. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Jason. Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship, just, I don't want to put you on the spot, Jay, and I probably could have asked you this earlier, but there's a spot when you leave town here on the bottom of Granville Street over to Carol Oliver's. Everybody knows Carol Oliver. That it's so black, and there is some lights there, and they haven't been on in a while. I asked Councillor McIver, who took a drive one day as chair of the Works Department. He took a drive over to there, and the lights were out, but there's some it's half in Hawkesbury and half in Richmond County. And a lot of people don't notice it, but when I mentioned it, people are saying, "Oh my God, you can't see nothing," and you can't see a thing if you're driving there. I go to work there like for 3:30 in the morning, and it's black. Now from the bottom of Granville Street, you're leaving town and you're heading to the mill. You go across and you go over, Carol Oliver lives there. Everybody knows where Carol, the first house on the left there when you're heading to Mill Road. The big Carol Oliver's place.
Yes.
There's no lights until you get there. It is really dark. And if there's anybody that doesn't, and I know the road very well, I've been traveling there for 40 years, but if you don't know that road, you can't see anything. So I'm just wondering if you could get in touch with Richmond County and maybe make some kind of, I don't know, some kind of agreement to get something done there, because I think it's a dangerous situation. I know I asked Councillor McIver to look at it one day, and he said the same thing, so.
I'd be happy to follow up
Yeah, that'd be great.
On your behalf. It would help me maybe the next time you're at the admin offices, if we could take 5 minutes and just make sure that I'm looking at the exact location that you mean, because
Sure.
I want to make sure that I have the correct civic number for the area, and I can kind of crop out a map and follow up that way. So
For sure. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions for Jason? Okay, back over to you, Terry.
Yeah, no, just thank you to Jason. There's just a pile of work there. You see just a little bit what's going on there. You see the volume on the ICIP project. We also have the AT. And so there's just a ton of work coming out of there. Plus we're working diligently on the design of the new Public Works building and a number of things. So thanks, Jason. Over to Gordy.
Good evening, everyone. Through you, Your Worship. Brief report on facilities parks. I talked about it earlier today, but we have been in discussion with NSP on the power supply, to the Civic Center. They made some changes back in January. We've had no issues since, so I just wanted to update council on that. We've had our Zamboni sponsorship. We had a little ceremony back on March 10th. Some pictures there. You can see what what was added to the Zamboni there for sponsorship. Move on to the food bank. The exterior renovations are complete with the exception of an exterior walkway on the driveway side of the residence beside the food bank. It looks like we have to do a little bit more geo work there to close out the 1999 file. So we're not, that's holding up finishing that side of the building, the groundwork there. But inside, we're moving ahead to kitchen cabinets and countertops. We actually had to wait a couple of weeks believe it or not, for a couple of kitchen sinks. Nobody had any in stock, so we have them now. Drywall painting, and we are relocating the oil tank and the water heater. Landscaping, accessible parking will be completed when the weather allows us to do so. But that project really is coming together nicely. The inside looks really good. Historical signage. We've added some historical signage to signify the locations of some mostly educational institutions, older ones that existed in the town. CRVS, the old site there next door. The convent school close to St. Joseph's Church. The public school in the Evergreen Club area. The Civic Center for the Port Hawkesbury High and Senior Elementary. And what's not there is the Justice Building for Centennial Elementary. We just don't have that location finalized yet with the province, but it is going to happen. Summer students, I left that on there just as an indication of, we're hoping to get a response. There are some responses out now this week on students' allocations. So we should be able to, hoping to hear in the next week or two as we get closer to April. The airport, we're still having trouble with those REIL lights. They were back to did some excavation and laid some cable, but there was a problem with the cabling and the transformer failed that operates those lights. So the contractor is working with the manufacturer to come up with a final, something that's going to work there. They're quite confident they can come up with something that'll work for everybody. And those lights will be operational soon. Just a reminder that the charging stations are up and running. And on the accessibility side, our committee met on the 6th of March. We introduced a couple of new members and went over the terms of reference, and then we distributed for the committee to review for a month or so, and we'll discuss them at the next meeting, which is April 3rd. And that's just a note that we're still waiting to hear from the funding application. There's been no word back yet on that. So that's my brief report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Gordy. Any questions for Gordy at this time? Go ahead.
Yes, Your Worship, through you to Gordy. Thank you for your report, Gordy. Very thorough. And obviously the topic I'm going to discuss here for a second is the historical signs. And I thank you very much for putting them up and staff.
You're welcome.
I'm just wondering if we could, I don't know who's in charge of it, Melissa or Michelle or yourself or whoever's in charge of our Facebook site. I'm wondering if we could maybe highlight one of them for a month at a time, maybe. And maybe, I know that a lot of students that went there over the years would appreciate that. If it was on a Facebook and maybe they could sign in or something, have a little, maybe 1 month go CRVS and the next month maybe go St. Therese School. I'm sure that people would appreciate this because there's a lot of people probably don't even know that they're out there. This is some way of representing and getting it out there that, the town did recognize these facilities that were here for lots of years. We met last night at the waterfront meeting and we were discussing historical signs down in Granville Street and whatnot. And this would be something that we could put on our Facebook and represent each month or something. And like you did say, the elementary school one is yet to be up, but I thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that.
I'd be happy to follow up with Melissa and maybe Michelle and see what we can do on our social
Sure,
media.
thank you.
Maybe we start with a little press release.
Yeah. It'd be great, thank you.
Sure.
Great idea. Any other questions for Gordy? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Gordy.
Yeah.
Michelle? Michelle was sitting right behind the podium. I didn't see her.
I didn't see Gina. 'Cause-
Yeah.
Gina was.
I was wondering.
I was like, is that who went over?
Sorry,
Who
Michelle.
went over and
It's
said
okay.
hi?
That's actually true.
I saw a bun.
Not very, not very nice.
Through your
Thank you.
worship, I'd like to present my brief report for the recreation department, starting with the trails as usual. Just preparing some grant reporting for the 2022-23 trail expansion grant, so just getting that out of the way in the next couple of weeks. A new trail expansion grant has been submitted to CCH. The new application focuses on a trail connector between the Maple and Hemlock trails, as well as some culverts, ditching, and graveling for increased safety for trail users. We did just receive 2 more trail counters, and that was all through grant funding, one through CCH Trails and the other through the Active Communities Fund. And those trail counters will go on the AT Trail and the Hemlock Trail. So the Trails Association will determine the best locations for those, and we purchased the housings for them, so they should go up quite easily and nicely. So look forward to seeing numbers from more of our trails and to see how the usage translates into the need for maintenance in certain areas of the trails. So really interesting. As far as recreation programming, we're sort of in between programming seasons right now. So the department is currently confirming the flyer for our spring programs. The flyer will come out about mid-April and programs will start at the end of April. Our March break programs, of course, as always, a huge success. With maximum participation for most programs. We did a day camp and it was very, very well attended. Priscilla Petrie facilitated that for us, and she's just absolutely incredible. We did our gym and swim program that was very well attended, as well as many of our other March break offerings. So as you can see, the pool was quite busy. Just to note, the Privateers High Society show that we had this past Saturday night, it was just a complete knockout. It was a sold out show, the most fun. We are getting wonderful feedback from that show, that people were just having so much fun and that the band really engaged the crowd, that they want to see them back. So of course we'll take that feedback for future opportunities to have with them. Some upcoming shows and events. Of course, next weekend we have our U13 AAA Female Atlantic Hockey Championships happening right here at the Civic Center. So it's going to be lots of hustle and bustle around the building, and people from outside the province visiting. So it's a really good opportunity to showcase what the Civic Center has to offer in town as well. May 20th, the Red Tribe Boxing event. Of course, Granville Green this summer, and I just recently added dates to be confirmed, but Matt Minglewood show in October. And then in November, we're going to have Rain Maida from Our Lady Peace and his wife, Chantal Kraviazza, are going to do a show there. Confirmed sponsors for Granville Green. We have Everwind, Bearhead Energy, East Coast Credit Union, and Poorhouse Spray Paper with a total of $27,500 so far. So that's really exciting and speaks to the support for the event. And then finally, just some notes on our social media. Our total page likes are always increasing slightly every month, from 4,203 to 4,266. And that is all for my report. Any questions?
I know Deputy Mayor McDougall has a question.
No, I just want to, Michelle, through you, Your Worship, just where's Matt Minglewood playing, and that, is it here or?
Here.
They didn't, this,
In the Bearhead Room.
in Bear Head?
Yes,
Okay, it's
yeah.
not changed, okay, Bear Head, yeah, okay, thanks.
You're very welcome.
Just wondering if any from our council's going to square off during the Red Tribe Boxing.
Jay might. There it is.
Two?
You know, we could do a,
Hockey game might break out.
you know, we could rent the big sumo wrestler suits and give a show.
Would we have to rinse it?
Well, it would be much safer.
Some of you wouldn't.
Blaine, that was your outside voice.
No.
I'm sorry I opened that can of worms. Thank you, Michelle. Any other questions?
I do have a comment through, Your Worship.
Go ahead.
Talking about Saturday night, So I've probably had no less than 24 people tell me how good of a time it was and that they really hope they come back sooner than later. They said it was fantastic. So thumbs
That's
up.
great to hear.
Awesome. Very good. Anything else left of the CAO report, Karen?
No, that's it, Your Worship.
All right. Very good.
Through your worship, just
Yes.
one more quick thing that's kind of exciting. I had a couple of conversations with Dave Matthews, and he's thinking about coming and doing some dry land hockey camps for kids over the spring and summer. So
Oh, nice.
we're gonna firm up some dates, but it'll be really fun to have him. He did a similar program in Richmond last summer, and my boys actually both
Fantastic.
did the program, and they absolutely loved it. So it's just something different and something active and
Absolutely.
really exciting.
I know a lot of our kids are really sad hanging up their hockey skates for the spring.
Absolutely.
They'll make up for maybe, hopefully, between now and a time where we can reintroduce spring hockey.
Well, the other thing that happens is that, and worth mentioning, I think, is that as soon as hockey ends, we start getting more inquiries about swimming.
Yeah.
So, because hockey players don't have time to take swimming lessons
Exactly,
until
that's
the end of
true.
March. So we have been getting a lot of Facebook messages and emails about when our swimming lessons starting back up again.
It
So
was nice seeing that picture of a filled up swimming pool, that's for sure.
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks, Terry. Okay, so we'll move on to other business. So the first item we have under other business is Red Tribe Boxing. Right to you, Jason.
Through your worship, Barry presented to us 2 weeks ago and had an ask to get the same deal that he had last year, which was 50% off the venue cost. And Deputy Mayor deferred it till today.
Okay, perfect. So I guess we'll have a discussion about that.
Yes, Your Worship, through you. Yes, I defer if there's any financial, I have no problem supporting what we gave the last time. I just wanted to make it clear that we don't make financial,
Same night decisions.
that decision, that's why I deferred it.
Nope, that makes a lot of sense. So I guess, is there any, and, you know, I appreciate you chairing. I wasn't able to hear Barry's presentation, but I'm assuming it was a lot of the same
It's
information.
a carbon copy.
Carbon copy. Certainly appreciate and admire the work that Barry and his team does for you in our region.
So one of the biggest differences, I guess, through your worship this year is that there's a group coming from 6 nations in Ontario.
Cool.
And it looks like they're going to be bringing 6 to 8 boxers to the event.
Yeah.
So it's growing. Yeah, and it looks, you know, with the boxers we have coming in, it's looking like they're probably going to rent about 40 hotel rooms for that night.
And I can add a little bit of context to, I know, you know, just to build on some of the information that I provided in my committee of the whole report. Barry and his team have been extremely helpful in providing some guidance around the event that Jason and I are helping to plan around Truth and Reconciliation. So the boxing ticket is on May 20th. Barry and his team are helping to flesh out what we can do on May 19th around hoisting the Mi'kmaq flag for the very first time in the town of Port Hawkesbury. So as those plans shape up, hopefully by the next committee of the whole, we'll have something to present to council. We'll understand the logistics around that and any budgetary considerations around that. So not only is it a boxing ticket, but we're looking at a 2-day, very fulsome Truth and Reconciliation event over the 2 days to really celebrate the fact that the Mi'kmaq flag will be flying permanently in the town of Port Hawkesbury. So, you know, it's great that Barry and Red Tribe are rolling up their sleeves and helping us figure out what those 2 days look like and really helping guide the process of what we can potentially do over the 2 days. So I just wanted to make sure that council has that context as well with regard to the ask that Barry has put forward.
So, Your Worship, through you, will be moving the motion to support that in the next,
For April.
for April's
Yeah.
regular council meeting?
Sure.
The consensus of council?
Everybody's okay with that? Any other questions or comments or any information that you feel like you need before April? Just let Jason know, and he can certainly get that information to us from Barry and Troy. Okay, so we'll move on to marketing levy bylaw. Terry?
So the marketing, there's a draft marketing levy bylaw completed by the Destination Cape Breton. And so it's gone to all municipalities within Cape Breton, and so it's been sent out for your review. The bylaw won't come into effect until November 1st, so there's some time to deal with this. I'd like to discuss with some of my counterparts as to if there's any issues with respect to the draft, and to get some legal review. But otherwise, it looks like a very complete document that has gone through a lot of work already. So that's for your information. I'll bring that back at a future committee poll, probably the next one, so just depending on feedback.
Okay, does council have any questions at this time for Terry? Okay, thank you, Terry. Our next item, so this is certainly, did you have anything else? No, you're good. So we've had both Councillor Wayne Mason and I and some other HRM councillors have had discussions in regard to some other municipalities who are sending letters of support, and for council's benefit, included in your package was a letter on behalf of Mayor Blair and her council from the municipality of Colchester with regard to the repealing of Bill 225, which really has impacted the Halifax Charter and the decision-making of that council with regard to zoning and housing. And it's for your information at this point, if you want to kind of mull it over, we can certainly put it on the agenda at our next committee of the whole. If council is open to it, I'm happy to draft a letter for the consideration of council, or if you decide you are uninterested in supporting that, I leave it on the table for discussion.
So your worship, I guess I would be interested to know what are the perceived benefits of having Bill 225? What are the positives, if there are any, associated with Bill 225? So that's something that maybe if we could have some information, maybe that'd be part of our conversation.
Sure, we can reach out to maybe the province and get a little bit more information around the intent of Bill 225, and certainly I can follow up as well with HRM Council to kind of understand how it impacts them, so the council can have more information at our next committee hold to consider before, I guess, deciding whether or not to send us a letter of support.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is Straight Area Pool. Councillor Point.
Through you, your worship. I guess I wanted to ask council to maybe consider allowing the mayor to invite Inverness County and Richmond County to join their councils to join a meeting with our council to discuss the straight area pool, the user rates or the user percentage, and the amount of money that each municipality is putting into the pool. As we know, it's no secret that it's well over $80,000 a year to us in Port Hawkesbury that our taxpayers are paying. And the last information I had, I think it was 27,000 from the other two combined, or 27.5. So I think, last year our senior staff went and met with councils and staff and really didn't get the reception we were hoping for. So I would ask council to support the mayor asking these two municipalities to sit down with us
and discuss the future of the pool.
I guess to build on that, I guess suggestion to council, perhaps also we would invite all of the CAOs, and I guess we probably still have the presentation that was originally presented, but revamp the numbers so that it's more reflective of, add whatever the more current stats are, to be able to kind of give a more fulsome picture of the percentages of usership, as well as the current costs of running the pool, the current realities, and, how much more we could do if we were, with that pool, and how much more community benefit could be had. And maybe it's, okay, if we look at a cost sharing scenario, maybe, we look at, how do we work together around programming? And how do we collaborate in other ways more so than what we're doing now? So it's like, how do we work together to get to a better place? So if council is open to that, I'm happy to extend an invitation. I mean, the worst that they could say is no, but I guess just, we don't know unless we try. Just invite them here so we can have hopefully a very constructive conversation around the future of the Strait, I guess the Sarek pool, but Strait area pool, sorry, and have that conversation. It's got to start somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Through you, your worship, and I guess we can't get to a council meeting without a history lesson from.
No, we can't. This is for the record, for the historical record, this is your second history lesson, I'm saying.
Oh, we had a second one today?
Second one, this meeting.
Anyway, I think there's been 4 or 5 or 6 wardens in Inverness County, 4 or 5 or 6 wardens from Richmond County. We dealt with this. We had 3 or some surveys. They're somewhere. If Michelle doesn't have them, or Aaron doesn't have them, or Gordy, the surveys we did, we're never on top. It was always either Richmond or Inverness that were on top as users. And nothing has changed since all these reports. I'm sure if we had another report, we'd get the same over. Like, what's the old thing? The definition of insanity. If you do the same thing over and over and you keep getting the same result, the definition of insanity. The only thing that has changed is the personnel that are in councils. So maybe now, but here's the caveat here, folks. If we don't get something soon, I know myself, being on council for 20 years and seeing this every year, you say $80,000, you're being kind. I think it was 110 or 120 in some years. So we got to seriously make some decisions about the pool, folks. So Councilor McIver and I discussed this many years back, so.
Through your worship, this is kind of the reason why I'd like to see this meeting take place, so we can.
I definitely support the meeting.
So we can look at the future of the pool and make sure we can sustain it.
Yeah. If it has a future, we have to start doing research on that.
We can't afford it. Citizens of Hawkesbury cannot afford to pay taxes for.
Absolutely.
I don't want to say it, but.
Yeah, and if we can get to a more equitable sharing scenario, what does that look like? Like, what does that new partnership look like? So, there'll have to be some give and take, and that's okay, but you have to start the conversation.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Councilor McIver.
Through you, your worship, it was last meeting I had mentioned to Terry, maybe reaching out to Richmond to have a social meeting with the council. And I don't think we should meet with both councils at the same time. If we could reach out and see what evenings they're available, where we could host it here and have a meeting and discuss more than the pool. There's lots of stuff going on.
No, absolutely. Maybe there's an agenda.
Yeah, if that's possible, if council agrees.
Yeah. Your worship, I definitely support that. I definitely support having the meeting, but I think even on a practical basis, it's better to do it individually, trying to coordinate 3 different councils to get together to Pick
Herding
a day
cats.
with one, what?
Herding cats.
Herding cats. But it would be best to do one and then another, and
Sure.
we'll look at what that agenda might entail. It may not just be the pool, maybe there are some other items too, but
Sure.
so I very
That
much
makes a
support
lot of
that.
sense. Yeah, so certainly with that suggestion, an agenda meeting with Richmond, we do have a lot of shared files already. So I mean, definitely more, and of course, and then on the Inverness side, maybe the agenda's going to look completely different. So I think that's a great suggestion. Thank you, Councillor McIver, for suggesting that. I like the idea of having multiple items, so it's not just, there are other, I think, pressing matters. The pool definitely is one, but it's a wonderful opportunity to also because, every 4 years, the faces just continue to change. Not all the time. I mean, how long have you guys been on council?
Well, too long.
It's gonna change, don't worry.
It's gonna change.
It's gonna change.
Anyway, but I think it's a great suggestion, so thank you, Councillor Coyne, for bringing that forward. And I guess I'll reach out to both wardens, ask if they could pass on the interest, the invitation to their council, so then we can work on some potential dates.
Absolutely.
Sounds good? I'm on it. Anything else on that item, Jason?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, so our next item is Little River Watershed. Over to you, Terry.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is a request that's got to go through sort of two municipalities and the Land Lake Water Utility, but we're starting here. This is really after a number of discussions with the province and various departments of the province. So I don't want to go through in great detail because we've seen this a few times now. This is the Landry Lake Watershed. So really, this is Landry Lake. This is Beaver Dam Lake, Little River. This is Beaver Dam and McIntyre. There's two different watersheds. So the watershed for Landry Lake is here. The Landry Lake for the rest is this very large area that includes Little River, Beaver Dam, and McIntyre. This area is owned by the province, controlled by Department of Environment and Climate Change. It is administrated and controlled by Department of Public Works. This is what you've seen. So there's dam structure there. There's spillway. There's other infrastructure in place. There's a concrete intake area, and that's the old route. So what we would like to do, staff has been working with staff at sort of at a peer level on this. This has to go to a different level, and what staff is asking is that the mayor of the town of Port Hawkesbury and the warden of Richmond County, on behalf and the chair of the Landry Lake Water Utility, write a letter, and I'll prepare the letter for consideration to the Minister of Public Works, asking that the Little River watershed area be turned over as an operating utility to the town of Port Hawkesbury, or that an operating agreement be put in place so that the Landry Lake Water Utility could utilize the water from that resource. So we have moved this file forward as far as we can. We're at the point now where we'd like to see some political intervention and to move the file along, and that's been suggested by staff at the province. So that's where we're at. We know that we need this watershed to be able to provide the required amount of water to service the green hydrogen projects. And we know that this watershed has to be turned over. We know the amount of work it's going to require to do that: condition reports, environmental assessments, easements. It's a large file. We're asking Public Works to complete that work and to come to an arrangement with the utility. So I will draft that letter if it's consensus of the council to move forward.
Absolutely.
Okay, is council okay with that plan?
Yep.
Sure.
Perfect. Thanks, Terry. Any questions? Perfect. Thank you, Terry. So we'll move forward that to the Unamaki, I guess that would be.
Sorry.
Okay. So we have a request, Unamaki Baseball.
Yes, your worship. So it's a request from Unamaki Baseball. This is a team, there's been a long history of baseball teams within this indigenous community. There's plans in tow to create team or teams that will compete in the Richmond Amateur Baseball Association, RABA, in the coming season. And they're looking for sponsorship, and the sponsorships are platinum tier, which is $1,000, gold for 500 to 99, or silver for 400 or below. So I present that to council as a request that has come in for your consideration.
So I'm assuming that the baseball team will be would draw players from all 5 indigenous communities in Unamaki.
That is the intent, and they would play out of the St. Peter's area and compete in the Richmond County League.
So your worship, this is just an item for consideration when we have our budget meeting.
We can certainly add it to our budget discussions. Any other questions or comments? Any more information that folks need?
I have a comment through you,
Sure.
your worship. We have a team here in town that's been in this league for many decades. And I think it would be a slap in the face to the team that plays here in Port Hawkesbury to sponsor a team from outside of the town.
Your worship,
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
through you, I support baseball all my life, obviously. And I got to echo Councilor's comments. I mean, I hate saying no to anything to do with baseball, but it wouldn't look good to our young people. And I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to get a team in the RABA, and they're down there. And I can tell you stories that can make your head spin about stuff like that. But yeah, it's a budgetary item, but we'll deal with it then, I guess.
Okay. Any other questions?
They're not playing any games in town at all, are they? Through you,
They
Your Worship?
would. I'm sorry.
That's more information than I know. Maybe we could inquire, I guess, to try to understand.
Well, by the letter, it states that they're going to go in the RABA.
Okay.
And the RABA has a team here, like the councilor said, the Bucks, so they will be coming here to play here, yes. But they'll be the away team, they won't be the home team. Same as all the other teams in the league will come here to play also.
So our Port Hawkesbury team is called the what?
The Bucks, Port Hawkesbury Bucks. Richmond
Yeah,
Amateur
we should
Baseball, they've been there
sponsor our
for
own team.
over 40 years and they never won the championship, they came close last year.
He needs that history lesson.
I think
Strike that from the records, Melissa.
Especially that's number 3.
I know, like, this side of the table is a little bad for outside voices that should stay inside. Okay, so we will move on then to Sports Wall of Fame. Over to you, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, Your Worship, thank you. I think in your package, everybody got the Town of Port Hawkesbury Sports Wall of Fame guidelines. We're not going to, what the Wall of Fame is, the Wall of Fame is looking for is for the approval of, or the adoption of the guidelines. There is some new changes. One is the Board of Governors, for instance. We are the Board of Governors as a council, all council plus the Chief Administrating Officer. Anything that's done, that they do is has to be approved by the Board of Governors. Any selection of people or teams, whatever, has to go through the Board of Directors. The mayor will, historically and going forward, will call and let the people know that they are in there. That's it, and our director of recreation is or her designate is from the town of Hotspur. She'll act as the secretary of the town for the town with one counselor on board, which is me at the time. And there is a couple of changes, slight changes, but you all have it in your package, and if you could look it over before the next regular meeting, I'll be looking for a motion to accept the Wall of Fame guidelines at our next regular council meeting. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for the deputy mayor? Okay, sounds good. So our last item under other business is a poster that was sent by Chief Corey Julian of Buckingham First Nation. So in addition to obviously extending an invitation to council to come and partake in the powwow on April 1st and 2nd, he also asked if council might consider sponsoring the event in some way. So I just wanted to, I told the chief that I would bring it forward to council at our committee of the whole.
Your worship.
Well, it's, yeah, it can be, the timing would be off for that. April 1st and 2nd is before our next public meeting.
I'm just wondering what they want, your worship, what kind of donation or request are they looking for?
Whatever,
Did they ask?
I think they'd be happy with whatever council may consider.
Do they have a banquet, your worship?
I can certainly get some more information on it. I understand it's a 2-day event, according to the poster, and it's being held, I believe, at the Stanivex grounds in the town of Antigonish. But yeah, I guess I can make some more inquiries in terms of maybe, what are some of their needs. Maybe there's some in-kind help that we can also offer, and I'll.
Yeah, if there was a banquet, maybe sponsor a table or something.
Sure. So maybe what I can do is reach out to the chief and get a little bit more information, and perhaps I can circulate an email to council.
Sure.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
We have no approved additions this evening, and for future meetings, we have our next public meeting on April 4th, followed by committee of the whole on April 18th. I'd ask at this point for a motion of adjournment.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Councilor Corey. All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary minded? Committee of the whole is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.